Eric, we are so happy that you came to Berlin. You know, when you arrived on Friday, and we wondered who would be our American house guest, but immediately we recognized each other, and you are a dear friend of us now, and we are very happy that you are here.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. And there is a special question coming to my mind. You have come with a purpose to Berlin, and especially to us, and we would be very happy, please, if you could talk on this purpose.
Well, I came to Berlin because I'm writing a book about the world's religions, 8 different religious paths, and one of them is Jainism. And during a recent trip to India, to Rajasthan, I met 2 Jains, Sanjeev and Shivani, who mentioned you. She said there are these 2 German Jains living in Berlin, and I stored that away in my mind thinking, German Jains, this sounds unusual. And I was going to be in Europe anyway, and I thought this would be a great opportunity to meet you and to basically try to figure out why 2 Germans would become interested in Jainism, because of course it's an Indian religion. The vast majority of Jains are Indian, but there are 2 exceptions here, and one theme I'm exploring in my book is conversion and people who follow paths that are very different from the ones that they were born into. So that's why I came.
Oh, I see. So one of the themes of your book is conversion, you said. And to precise it, we have never been converted. You know, Jains, they accepted us, and they were astonished, and they wondered, oh, you are a Jain? But there was no trial to convert us or to put us on the side. It was just when we came to Rajasthan and we met Acharya Mahapragya, that we knew this is our spiritual path. He is our teacher.
Well, I'm using the term conversion loosely. Not formal conversion, but people who are following spiritual paths that are very different from the ones that they grew up with. And what I'm interested in is what you and Chris have found appealing about Jainism, and what sort of universal truths might be found in the teachings of Jainism. And I wanted to see, instead of just talking to you on the phone or by email, to actually see how you live your life, how you try to follow Jain principles. And we've had many nice discussions talking about Jain philosophy and heavy subjects, but interesting ones, and that's my purpose.
I see. This is also our purpose. Our purpose is to spread the teachings of Mahavira and to make known that Jainism in reality is one of the world religions, although it is not on the list of world religions. This we found out, and we were very astonished. But perhaps it will be added to this list one day when people only knew what are the teachings of Mahavira. And what did you study and what did you find out as the most impressive in the teachings of Mahavira concerning Jainism?
That's a big question. Well, I am by no means, of course, an expert on Jainism. I come to it as a interested outsider. Let's put it that way. I've always, I have lived in India for a few years, and I was always aware of the Jains somewhat vaguely, and so I've tried to explore the teachings more closely. Well, of course, the main sort of foundation of Jainism is ahimsa, or nonviolence, which I find interesting because the Jains are, of course, very uncompromising in this. You know, people say to me, well, all religions preach nonviolence, and that's probably true. Many religions do, but none in such an uncompromising manner as the Jains. And, you know, we have an expression in America, you know, you talk the talk, but do you walk the walk? And the Jains, from what I can tell, walk the walk. In other words, they don't just have this principle of nonviolence and compassion on paper, they actually live it. And that's what I find interesting. And I'm reminded of Albert Einstein's famous quote, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he said, I don't know if I believe in reincarnation, but if it exists, I would like to come back as a Jain living in India. And that from one of the great scientists of our time, and ironically the man whose discoveries led to the invention of the atomic bomb, and yet that he was drawn to that principle of ahimsa as well. The other thing I find interesting about Jains is this non-attachment. How the Munis or the monks really own nothing. And, people in the West, say in America in particular, we have a lot of stuff, we have a lot of possessions, and there's a kind of spiritual hunger out there that people have. People feel, well, I have all these things, but am I happy? The answer is often no. And there's a kind of emptiness in people's souls, and they feel that they're accumulating more and more stuff, but they're not achieving happiness or fulfillment, whatever you want to call it. And I think the Jains, even though, to be honest, to American eyes, some of the practices seem strange, I think they're fascinating, and I think they represent a sort of model of what human beings could be. And I'm not saying that every American's going to go out and become a Jain Muni. That's not going to happen. And that's not the purpose of my book, really. What I'm trying to do in this book is sort of show people different ways of looking at the world and looking at life, and that you may find some surprising answers in surprising places. It may not be at the shopping mall or the television screen. It may be in the small villages of Rajasthan, Gujarat in India, where the Jains flourish. So,
yes, that's what we have realized.
Right.
But as you mentioned your book, you are going to write your second book,
yes,
to be precise.
Right.
You have brought your first book with us. Please, the title of it.
In English, the Geography of Bliss. The subtitle is One Grump's Search for the Happiest Places in the World, meaning that I'm not a particularly happy person, but I went off on a search around the world for the happiest countries and what makes them happy, what makes for a happy place, a happy society. And again, even though I went to countries like Iceland and Bhutan, not Germany, sorry. The point is not to pick up and move to Iceland or Bhutan. Maybe some people will do that. Most people won't. But there are universal lessons, I think, to be learned from some countries that are practicing the arts of happiness in a very serious way.
Yes, and we have read some chapters of the German translation. It is really a wonderful book, and we can recommend our readers to read this book, because Eric is not someone who is just talking. He has such a nice writing,
and funny,
he brings it
too.
near. We have laughed, and I have started reading this book because Aparigra told me, you should read it. It is so funny, so nice, and that was true.
Well, if I can make a couple of Germans laugh, then I figured I've achieved my objective.
So at least two of them you have made laugh.
At least
you know it.
Good,
at least.
good.
So, Eric, thank you so much. It is our pleasure to feel friend with you and to have these relations to you, and that you are here in our house. It is really
you've been
wonderful.
such great host and hostess. Dankeschön and Dankeschön, and thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.